So going into like the same approach Joe was taking us in from the beginning for the table, uh, the virtual list in this case is pretty simple. It's mainly just these two repeating calculated fields. He's using this special window method in his case. So in Kevin Frank's example, he's leveraging global variables that get uniquely defined via MD5 hash.
Hmm.
So the variable is just like named per the window, right? And it allows you to decode the window name like super fast. So the global variable actually stores the collected data, right? And then that itself is just an index in the virtual list itself, and then we're just grabbing the JSON for that specific calculation, right? And he's just evaluating what that that key is.
Wow.
So, yeah, I had to wrap my brain around this method here, but I mean, it's resourceful. Definitely one way to get it like slimmed down from having like multiple sets parsing, for each column specifically. This just happens in one go. And then the same, he's just grabbing summary data. And I believe this is similar to what you have done in the past stand-in for your sorting filters.
Yeah, that was based on Kevin Frank's sorting techniques.
So he's obviously leveraging this in one of his demos. So that's something that's in here as well. I'm not leveraging this in the solution I put it into, but it is in here. So in his case, like where we have just a customer summary. This is the virtual list here. We can kind of peek in to see what the data looks like in this case, and then we can look at the script. But as you can see, they're all just these. This is the window name, right? The window name that was hashed via an MD5 creates the global variable that ends up storing the single array, right? And then he's just generating as many globals as he needs to accumulate for the data. And there'd be no limit, right? He could have as many as he wanted in this case. But of course, you're creating all these globals. So the drawback is you probably don't want these to remain in memory,
right?
Which he has cleanup for.
Yeah.
So this max rep takes account of the actual count that was given for the virtual list or the globals themselves, and then he cleans them up based on the actual window name, right? And then when it was evaluated, so at the repetition. So if I close this, we'll see the cleanup run.
Yeah.
And then he's grabbing all those the actual window hash, which would be the same for every single repeating.
Right.
And then on the fly, he has a special custom function that's running the iterator.
Is it like a while?
Yeah, it's just a while that's going through and clearing each one. I mean, it says clear repeating variable. That's exactly what the custom function's doing. But yeah, this one kind of has a little bit of overhead in the fact that he's relying on a couple custom functions, but they do simplify some of the methods, especially in like the collection process, and then in his case, cleanup, because he's not destroying just a singular global. He's having to do many. But let me see if I can just run.
Yeah, that's pretty slick. But what does the layout look like for the?
Sure. Yeah.
Is that just a row of global variables?
Yeah. So we can just see the repeating, right? So in this case, this is the text instance. They're both getting fed. They're both calculations. So both fields are getting fed the same data from the same row. and he can select whether or not it's being determined as a number evaluation or a text evaluation, which allows him to still have control over numbers or text, right? It doesn't, that gives him better control in formatting, right? Or actually even doing like later calculations on that.
Yeah.
Um,
So those are repeating fields as well. Is that what that is? The cell num?
yes. So cell num, this would be 2, right? We're just looking at it in a row across, but he's selecting the instance of the data type depending on what the data type is that he's displaying. So he's either got text or numbers, right? In this case, which does solve for pretty much everything you're going to show on a report, probably.
Yeah.
And
but
your header names, are those just like text, hard-coded text?
Those are hard-coded, yeah. So he's not doing any collection for headers.
Okay.
It's all data specific, and there's no header collection happening whatsoever. So I guess the theory is like you're probably going to be designing these reports
right
in a specific way. So you're probably going to have to define what the headers look like anyways, unless you're creating some kind of thing, something that's more dynamic,
right?
Then you probably want to include it.
Yeah. The other way allows for easy export to CSV, but this has a huge benefit of not having to have a table with a bunch of different records to reference.
Right.
Different fields to reference, not records. A bunch of different fields to reference. Yeah, because they're just doing them as repeating. Oh yeah, it makes sense, Joe. When we were looking at yours, I guess it could have easily just been repeating fields there too. There's no reason that they have to be
exactly. Yeah, they're
yeah. And this is just a view at what the virtual list table has. I mean, these are all the calculations that are running on the repeating field, and then he's just the ID, like other instances, incrementing it starting from record 1, and he's pre-populating it with 10,000 records, because he's working with a pretty big data set. But I know, Joe, you had a fancy way of generating records on the fly for ones that weren't in there. He's actually not doing anything like that. He's just like always making sure that there's enough data present in here.
Wow.
For the virtual list end. But then shrinking this list, when the report's actually generated. So only performing the find on the actual count of records.
Right.
Okay. So he has a static 10,000 records, and then he has 10,000 records, and then just constrains the find to be those that have data.
Yeah. So we can look at the script here. He's got a bunch of preliminary data that he's collecting in the beginning about months and report information. And then he's controlling the window object, giving it size and stuff. Where he does the collection, this is where he's leveraging kind of another custom function. Let's see if I can identify it here. Yeah, so he's using the set var by name, which is actually creating the global of the window hash. Yeah.
Because you can do that in the let to define the global variables and the names of them in the let. So
that's exactly what he's doing.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It's just setting it.
Yeah.
But it allows them to just do it in one line, that one instance, and then that creates the global for that state. And he's just doing a loop. So this is just a loop collection.
I wonder if there's now that we're seeing this, an upper limit to the number of global variables that you can generate.
I don't know. He gets pretty in depth in those demos. I didn't read through like everything. But I know he was weighing out the advantages of using one direction versus another.
Yeah.
And why you might use this method. Basically, some of the key points that I grasped from his overview was the fact that the client we were working with needed to have simultaneous invoices open at the same time, pointing to the same virtual list.
Right.
and all the other instances of virtual lists weren't going to allow me to do that without the actual one closing or doing some kind of like
PDF.
some PDF implementation.
Yeah, but you could expand on this too if you wanted to do, like, this doesn't have to be window based. It could be portal based, or like you could just, for any virtual list that you want to display, provide a hash or some, unique value that you use for the naming of it. So you could have like 3 different virtual lists on a single layout display, all of them stored in global variables, and have them in without having the overhead of having to create 3 separate virtual lists.
Yeah, exactly. You just you have the management of cleaning up those globals, but they self-terminate after the solution closes, but you'd probably still want to make sure that you're not over allocating the memory.
Right.
Now, as we look at this, are these 2 separate window hashed global variables with the 2 windows open?
Yes.
In your tools. So if
we look, we can see that we'll have 2 distinct. So that one's E1B, and this one's 336.
Oh, yeah.
We can see the 2 different global window hashes that were created to divide the context.
Yeah. So now you can populate window after window after window, and it doesn't matter. And you would just you could actually just do some static values if you were going to display multiple virtual lists in a single layout, like Portal or something. I'm just imagining.
So I mean, there's literally as many as you want here, but like that's the uniqueness of this approach. So you can do the comparison if people are actively like working with Windows and trying to see like how this data stinks up in relation to it, another piece of information.
Yeah, that's huge. That's really helpful.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the Kevin Frank demo. I did not create this. I take no credit for it, but I learned how to do it.
That's pretty cool.